Hey everyone, welcome back to the Stoic journey. Today, we're diving into one of the biggest questions that might be lingering in your mind if you're in the no contact phase. Is it actually working? I know this hasn't been an easy journey for you. You've likely been tempted to reach out, wondering if they're feeling your absence, if they're thinking about you, or even if they're starting to miss you. But let me tell you, sticking to no contact was a courageous choice, a powerful move to reclaim your power and prioritize yourself. It's a choice that requires strength, patience, and a lot of trust. And right now, you're looking for signs that this effort hasn't been in vain, that it's truly making an impact. Today, we're diving into the subtle but powerful indicators that your no-contact strategy is working, using timeless Stoic wisdom to guide us. Instead of grasping at every little detail or second-guessing what might be happening behind the scenes, we'll focus on grounded, reliable signs that can help you know your silence is making a difference. And what I'm about to share isn't just theory. These are signs drawn from analyzing hundreds of cases where no contact didn't just help someone heal, it also completely shifted the dynamic with the person they cared about. Right now, you might feel like nothing's happening, like your silence isn't making any kind of impact. You might even be thinking, do they even notice I'm gone? This doubt is completely natural. When we pull back, when we choose to detach, we're often left with an aching void. But what most people don't understand about human psychology is this. The moment you withdraw your energy, you create a noticeable gap that can't be ignored. Picture a candle in a dimly lit room. When you're close, the flame's warmth and light are comforting, but it's easy to overlook how much it really fills the space. Now imagine taking that candle away. The room doesn't just go dark, it feels colder, emptier. The warmth and light that once seemed subtle suddenly becomes something they can't help but miss. That's what's happening now. By stepping back, you're creating a space where the absence of your light and energy becomes undeniable. It's only in this darkness that they begin to realize just how much your presence once meant. And even if your connection was just beginning, they had still felt a hint of your warmth, your consistent attention, your presence, whether or not they fully appreciated it. You were there constantly, still showing up, even if it meant waiting for a response or seeking their attention. But now, you're not. That steady presence has vanished, and trust me, they will notice. Your absence will create a contrast, a shift that is impossible to ignore. And if you're feeling this message resonate, if you're ready to stand in your own power and let that silence speak volumes, go ahead and hit the like button below. Not only does it support this channel, but it also symbolizes your commitment to this journey of strength and self-worth. So tap that thumbs up as a small step in reclaiming your power, and let's keep moving forward together. And now, I want to share something powerful that happened to one of our community members last week. Sarah had been in no contact for about 45 days. For weeks, she was convinced her ex had moved on and didn't care, that her silence was going completely unnoticed. But slowly, little signs started to appear. Her friends started hearing her ex ask about her, but never directly. Instead, it was more subtle, like her ex would casually bring up her name, ask about things she used to enjoy, trying to piece together her life without making it obvious that they were wondering. This isn't just coincidence, it's psychology in action. When someone has become used to your presence, your attention, and your energy, they don't simply move on. When that presence disappears, there's a natural void that's created, and it often hits harder than they expect. Think about it like coffee. If you've been drinking it every morning for years and suddenly stop, your body doesn't just adjust overnight. It notices. It craves it. It feels that absence deeply. That's exactly what's happening now. Whether they want to admit it or not, they're feeling your absence. Today, I'm going to walk you through some of the most telling signs that your no-contact strategy is working, signs that show your silence isn't just being ignored, but is actually breaking through in ways they might not even want you to know. These signs are subtle but unmistakable, and they're the indicators that let you know your silence is making the impact you hoped for. So, are you ready to discover these signs? Ready to truly understand how your silence is impacting them? Remember, this no-contact journey isn't just about them, it's about you. Even if these signs aren't immediately obvious, your strength remains essential. As Stoics, we know that we can't control others' thoughts, actions, or reactions. All we can control is our own commitment to self-respect and resilience. So right now, let's affirm that strength together. Say it with me. I stand strong. And to really cement that commitment, take a moment to write it down in the comments below. As Lee Iacocca once said, the discipline of writing something down is the first step toward making it happen. So go ahead, make it real. Type out, I stand strong in the comments. By putting it into words, you're setting a powerful intention to create a reality where your silence speaks volumes. Sign 1. You are busy building a better life. Yeah, I know you probably weren't expecting something like this to be the biggest sign, but sometimes the hardest truths are the ones we most need to hear. And here it is. If you're still sitting around waiting for them to take notice of your absence, it means you're not fully embracing the no-contact phase. You may have stepped back physically, but mentally and emotionally, you're still entangled. You're still checking their social media, looking for hints of interest, wondering if they're missing you. It's a cycle that keeps you trapped, and if you're honest with yourself, it's a cycle that prevents real change. Let's rewind for a moment. Do you remember why you decided to go no contact in the first place? For many of you, it's because they rejected you or became distant. Maybe they stopped responding. Maybe they pulled away without explanation. And while there could be many surface-level reasons for their change in behavior, the deeper truth is this. They had become used to you being constantly available, always ready to cater to their needs, always ready to reach out and close the distance. So, if after all this time you're still checking up on them, still waiting for them to notice you, still hoping for some kind of response, ask yourself, why would they come back? Why would they choose to come back to the same version of you that they felt comfortable leaving behind? The version that they once took for granted. Now, let me be clear. It's not about putting the blame solely on you. Relationships are complex, and it's never entirely one person's fault. But there's a reason why, even in the no-contact phase, many people find themselves waiting, unable to fully let go. The reason is attachment. Attachment to the hope that they'll change, that they'll suddenly see your worth. But if you're waiting, you're stuck in the same loop that led to this situation in the first place. They pulled away because they didn't see your worth in that dynamic. And if you're still waiting around, nothing about that dynamic has really changed. Maybe you're thinking, but isn't no contact supposed to make them miss me? Yes, no contact creates space. It can allow the other person to feel your absence, but only if that absence is complete and genuine. If you're still obsessively checking on them, still living in a mindset where you're just counting down the days until they realize they miss you, then they're going to feel that energetically. They'll sense that you haven't really moved on. People can feel when they're still on your mind. There's a subtle psychological effect when someone knows that you're still invested, still waiting, even if you're not physically reaching out. It's as if they can feel that their presence still holds a certain power over you, and in that case, your no contact isn't fully working because deep down you haven't detached. Maybe you're telling yourself that all this waiting and checking is harmless, that it's just curiosity. But let's be honest, if you're constantly looking for signs that they miss you, is that really just curiosity, or is it hope? The kind of hope that keeps you stuck. What if they never reach out? What if they've moved on completely while you're still here, tied to a version of the past that's no longer serving you? Ask yourself honestly, if they were to come back right now, would you be any different? Would they see a stronger, more independent version of you? Or would they see the same person who's been waiting, who's been holding on to them for so long? If nothing within you has truly shifted, they'll see that same old dynamic. They'll sense that same availability, that same predictability. And if they're coming back out of loneliness or curiosity, but not genuine change, it's easy to fall back into old patterns. Nothing truly changes when we're still rooted in the same place emotionally. So here's the real question. Why are you still waiting? What are you hoping will happen if they finally notice? What will it mean for you if they do reach out? Will it validate you, make you feel better, take away some of that ache you're feeling right now? The truth is, any sense of validation that comes from them finally noticing won't last. If you haven't built your own sense of self-worth, you might feel relieved in the moment. But if you're still seeking that validation from someone else, you'll find yourself waiting for it again and again. No contact isn't just about making them miss you. It's about giving yourself the space to grow. It's about stepping back so that you can see yourself in a new light, one that doesn't rely on someone else's opinion to feel valuable. You have to ask yourself if you're genuinely using this time to focus on yourself, to grow, to become someone who doesn't need anyone else to feel whole. Because if you're still sitting in the same place emotionally, still hoping, still waiting, then you're not truly moving forward. So instead of sitting and waiting for them to take notice of yourself. Notice what you need to heal, what you need to feel truly whole without anyone else's validation. Use this time for you, not for them. Because if you're just sitting there, you're not allowing the real power of no contact to work. No contact isn't about waiting. It's about growing. And only when you grow will you find that whether they come back or not, you're still strong, still whole, and entirely enough on your own. Sign 2. They start acting out of character or seeking attention. Sometimes when someone begins to feel the effects of your absence, they'll start behaving in ways that seem completely out of character. Maybe they've become unusually active on social media, posting non-stop about their amazing life. Perhaps they're suddenly all about fitness, or they're taking up new hobbies, trying to look more adventurous and carefree than ever before. When someone starts acting like this, it's often because they're trying to create an image, one that says, "Look at me, I'm doing just fine without you." Think about this as a way of them filling the silence. They're trying to project that they're unaffected, that they're moving on, or even that they're winning at life. But as with most acts, it's often just that, a performance. Deep down, your absence may be creating an uncomfortable void for them, and instead of reaching out or acknowledging it, they try to fill it with distractions or attention-seeking behavior. In relationships, People often want to be seen in a positive light, especially by someone who has chosen to go silent. Your no contact has left them wondering what you're thinking and whether you're moving on. This curiosity, mixed with a little insecurity, can lead them to act in ways that are unusual for them. If they were once quiet and private, they might suddenly start broadcasting every detail of their life. Or if they were always reserved, they might now seem loud and outgoing, showing up at events they never would have attended before. It's as if they're putting on a costume, trying to play a role that they think will grab your attention. One way to think about this behavior is like a child who has lost their favorite toy. They may pretend it doesn't matter, even throw other toys around and make a scene. But inside, they feel that loss. Your absence has created a similar feeling for them, one they may not want to admit. So instead, they try to appear happy and unbothered, hoping you'll notice and maybe even reach out to see what's changed. As the saying goes, actions speak louder than words. When someone acts out of character, it's their actions telling you something they're not willing to say directly. They might be putting on a show, hoping you'll be curious enough to break the silence, to reach out and ask what's going on. But here's the thing. You don't need to fall for it. You don't need to engage in their performance. Imagine this. You're sitting in the audience, watching a play. The actor on stage is trying their best to get your attention, pulling out every trick they know. But as a true audience member, you're not meant to join them on stage. You're meant to sit back, watch, and decide how much of the show you want to invest in emotionally. By staying silent, by not reacting to their performance, you're telling them that their act isn't enough to pull you back. Your silence speaks volumes. By not reacting, you're showing them that you're not here to chase them, that their approval or validation is no longer your focus. And this can be frustrating for them because in their mind, the show was supposed to draw you in. They expected you to take notice, maybe even feel a twinge of jealousy or curiosity. But instead, you're choosing to remain grounded, centered in your own strength, and not letting their behavior pull you back in. Remember, people are often drawn to those who have the confidence to walk away without needing to look back. This is where Stoic wisdom comes in. As Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. You can't control how they act, how they react, or how they try to capture your attention, but you can control how much energy you give to their behavior. If you're not seeing this sign yet, don't worry. It doesn't mean you failed or that no contact isn't working. Sometimes these shifts take time, and sometimes they're subtle. The most important thing is that you stay steady and focused on your own journey. You don't need to look for confirmation from their behavior. Instead, remind yourself of your commitment to stay strong, to focus on your own growth and self-worth. Even if you don't see these signs right away, that's okay. They may or may not happen, and either way, it doesn't change your path forward. Your goal isn't to wait for them to notice you. Your goal is to become someone so centered and secure in themselves that others feel drawn to you naturally. So hold firm and stay true to your decision. If you're not seeing any signs, don't be discouraged. Stand strong, because this journey is about you reclaiming your power. And when doubt starts to creep in, let your affirmation be a source of strength. I stand strong. And if you haven't already, write it in the comments below. Write it as a declaration, a commitment to yourself. I stand strong. By putting it into words, you're affirming that no matter what happens, you're choosing resilience, self-worth, and inner peace above all else. And folks, we're at the midpoint of the video. If you have any questions, maybe a different perspective, or a confusing thought lingering in your mind, let's discuss it in the comments. I'm here to help you anytime. And if everything's clear and you're finding value in this, go ahead and hit that like button if you haven't already. Let's keep going strong together. Sign 3. They seem to be everywhere you are. One of the most telling signs that the no-contact rule is working is when you start noticing that they seem to pop up wherever you go. You may not have seen them for a while, and suddenly they're showing up at places you frequent, attending events they normally wouldn't, or liking and commenting on posts in mutual circles where you're active. It may feel like a coincidence at first, but when this coincidence keeps happening, it's often a sign that your absence is starting to get to them. Imagine that you've created an invisible line between the two of you. By choosing no contact, you've drawn that line and stayed on your side, giving them the space they seem to want. But sometimes when people realize that you're no longer chasing or seeking them out, curiosity and even a bit of anxiety can kick in. They start crossing that line in subtle ways, hoping to remind you that they're still around, or, even better, to see how you'll react if they appear in your space. Think about it like a game of tag. When you're constantly pursuing someone, they keep running. But when you stop chasing and stand still, they often turn around, wondering why you stopped. Your no-contact silence can have a similar effect. When they see that you're no longer investing your time, energy, or attention into them, they're left with unanswered questions. Why aren't they looking for me? Why aren't they reaching out? This can be unsettling, leading them to seek you out in hopes of regaining the control they once felt. Let's break down some examples of this behavior. Say you usually attend a certain yoga class every Wednesday, and they never cared about yoga before, but now suddenly you start seeing them there. Or maybe there's a local coffee shop where you like to spend time, and out of nowhere, they start frequenting it too. These appearances aren't always random. Sometimes they're seeking out familiar spaces you share, hoping to run into you without it seeming too obvious. It's a subtle way of keeping a connection alive without actually reaching out. Another form of this behavior is when they become more active in your online spaces. Perhaps they start liking posts from your mutual friends, commenting on things that you're tagged in, or watching your stories and posts more frequently. It's as though they're trying to make their presence felt without breaking the no-contact rule themselves. This subtle interaction, showing up where they know you'll see them, can be a way of saying, "I'm still here, watching." But why do they do this? When people lose a steady presence in their life, they feel a gap, even if they don't want to admit it. By appearing where you are, they're trying to fill that gap, to insert themselves back into your world in some way. It's a bit like trying to hear a favorite song you haven't listened to in a while. It's comforting, familiar, and brings a sense of connection to something that once felt close. They're hoping that by placing themselves in your environment, they can re-establish some of that closeness they once felt. There's also a psychological factor here, FOMO, or the fear of missing out. When someone feels your absence but isn't sure what's happening in your life, curiosity starts to build. Are they moving on? Are they meeting new people? This fear can become overwhelming, leading them to seek out places where they know they might get a glimpse into your world. When they show up in your spaces, it's often an attempt to reconnect, to gather information, and to reassure themselves that they haven't completely lost touch with you. Of course, seeing them everywhere can be confusing. You might wonder if they're trying to get back together, or maybe if they're just being nosy. It's essential to recognize that while this behavior does show they're affected by your absence, it doesn't necessarily mean they're ready to make amends or rekindle the relationship. Sometimes, it's just a reflection of their curiosity or discomfort with losing the control they once felt. So, what should you do if you notice this sign? First, recognize it for what it is. A sign that your no-contact approach is having an effect. They're feeling the void you left, and they're responding by seeking out ways to feel close to you again, even if it's only from a distance. But resist the temptation to break your silence in response to their behavior. Remember, they're not reaching out directly. They're testing the waters, perhaps even hoping that you'll be the one to break the silence first. Instead, let this be a reminder of your own strength. You've created a space for yourself, and they're feeling that shift. But don't lose focus. No contact is about you, your growth, your healing, your journey to self-respect. Let their behavior serve as confirmation that your silence speaks louder than words. You don't need to engage, react, or change your approach. By standing firm, you continue to show them that your life doesn't revolve around their attention. If you're not seeing this sign yet, don't worry. The timing of these things varies, and some people take longer to feel the impact of absence. Your goal isn't to get them to appear where you are. It's to find your own stability and confidence without needing their presence. Stand strong in your choice to go no contact. Trust that the boundaries you're setting are guiding you toward a healthier future, with or without their involvement. And as a final reminder, if you feel tempted to break your silence, hold on to this affirmation: I stand strong. When you find yourself wavering, remember why you started no contact in the first place: to reclaim your power, to heal, and to grow. And if you haven't done so already, write it in the comments below. I stand strong. This affirmation is your anchor, a commitment to yourself that no matter where they are, you are grounded, centered, and in control. Sign 4. They begin to mirror your actions. One subtle yet powerful sign that no contact is working is when they start mirroring your actions. This mirroring isn't necessarily a conscious choice on their part. It's often a subconscious response to your changes. When someone sees you growing, exploring new interests, or embracing a positive lifestyle, they may feel an urge to do the same, almost as if they're trying to keep up with you. This mirroring effect can show up in several ways, from adopting similar hobbies to making lifestyle changes they know align with your values. Imagine your life as a ripple in a pond. When you make a change, even something small, it sends ripples outward. In a relationship or even after a breakup, these ripples can impact the other person too, especially if they're still attuned to your life. By staying silent, focusing on your own journey, and embracing self-improvement, you might notice that they're starting to copy some of these changes, consciously or not. For instance, maybe you've started hitting the gym regularly, focusing on your fitness and taking care of your health. Suddenly, they're sharing workout updates, posting about health goals, or joining fitness classes. Or perhaps you've taken up a new hobby, something that brings you joy and fulfillment, like painting or learning a new language. And then, out of the blue, you see them dabbling in a similar activity. It's as though they're following your lead, even though there's no communication between you. Why does this happen? Relationships, even after they end, have a lasting impact on both people involved. When you were together, you likely influenced each other's habits and routines. So when you start making changes that signal growth and independence, they may feel inspired or even challenged to keep up. They're used to seeing you in a particular way, and now that you're stepping into a new version of yourself, they may feel a need to match that energy. Psychologically, this mirroring often comes from a place of insecurity or self-reflection. When they see you moving forward, it highlights the fact that they're standing still or not progressing in the same way. Your actions may spark questions within them. If they're growing and improving, what am I doing with my time? Should I be making changes too? Rather than accepting that they may have fallen behind, they start imitating your actions to feel like they're on the same level. Mirroring can also stem from a fear of being left behind or becoming irrelevant in your life. When someone sees you evolving and improving, it can create a sense of distance, a reminder that you're no longer the same person they once knew. By mimicking your changes, they're trying to close that gap to keep up with you in a way that makes them feel more connected to your current self. Another reason people mirror actions is to rekindle a sense of connection. Think of it like trying to speak the same language. If they know you're invested in personal growth, they may hope that by pursuing similar activities, they'll spark some common ground, even if it's subtle. This can be especially true if they're feeling the absence of communication or closeness. By mirroring your actions, they're creating a bridge to feel like they're still part of your life, even if you're not directly interacting. But it's important to keep perspective. While this behavior can be a sign that they're still affected by your presence, it doesn't necessarily mean they're ready to change or reconnect. Sometimes, mirroring is simply a reaction to their own insecurities, rather than a genuine interest in self-growth or rekindling the relationship. They may be making surface-level changes without the true introspection or commitment that lasting growth requires. So, what should you do if you notice this mirroring behavior? First, recognize it as confirmation that your focus on yourself is having an effect. They're watching, they're noticing, and they're impacted by the strength and independence you're cultivating. However, don't let this lure you back into old patterns. Remember, their growth journey is theirs to figure out. Your progress and goals aren't about competing or winning against them. They're about becoming the best version of you. If they're truly inspired by your changes, that's a reflection of the positive influence you've had. But whether they choose to genuinely invest in their own growth or are just mirroring you temporarily is out of your control. What's most important is that you continue to stay true to your path, focus on your own goals, and let your actions speak for themselves. And if you're not seeing this sign yet, don't worry. This kind of behavior can take time, and it may never happen in a noticeable way. Your progress isn't about whether they take notice or start copying your actions. It's about how much you're growing, healing, and thriving on your own. Let their potential mirroring be a side effect, not the main goal. In the end, remember that your journey is your own. The changes you're making aren't for anyone else's approval or validation. They're for you, to help you grow, heal, and become stronger. Stand firm in your commitment to your own growth, and let their actions take whatever course they will. And if you haven't already, use this moment to ground yourself with an affirmation. Say it with me, I stand strong. If you feel the pull to look over your shoulder, resist it and stay focused on the road ahead. You're creating a life of strength and independence, and that's where your true power lies. Write it in the comments. I stand strong. By doing so, you're affirming your dedication to a path of self-discovery where your happiness and progress are built from within. Sign 5. Their demeanor changes in public or social settings. Another subtle yet telling sign that your no-contact strategy is working is when you notice a shift in their demeanor in public or social settings. Maybe they seem quieter than usual, more introspective, or even a bit withdrawn. This change in behavior isn't random. It can be a sign that they're feeling the impact of your absence in ways they might not want to admit. When someone is used to having you around, whether as a source of attention, comfort, or support, your absence can create an emotional void. That void may leave them feeling uncertain or even a little lost, especially in situations where they used to feel confident or secure. Social settings often amplify these feelings, as they're now navigating these spaces without the reassurance or companionship that you once provided. Picture it like a ship without its anchor. In the past, your presence may have served as a steadying influence in their life, something they could rely on or feel secure around. Now that you've pulled back, they're forced to find their own balance, to anchor themselves without your support. This lack of grounding can manifest as changes in their demeanor, like an underlying anxiety or restlessness that shows up when they're out and about. Imagine you're at a mutual friends gathering and you see them acting differently. Perhaps they're not as talkative or seem slightly detached, or maybe they're doing the opposite, going out of their way to seem overly cheerful or extroverted, almost as if they're putting on a performance. Both of these behaviors can be signs that they're feeling the impact of your absence. If they were used to having you by their side, they might struggle with the silence left behind and try to mask that discomfort, especially in settings where they know you could be watching or hearing about it. Social media can also be a revealing platform for this change in demeanor. They might start posting things that are a little out of character, perhaps sharing stories or photos that suggest they're thriving, even when it feels a bit forced. Or maybe they're quieter than usual online, not as engaged as they used to be. Either way, these shifts are signals that they're reacting to the new dynamic between you, grappling with the space you've created. Psychologically, this behavior stems from a mix of longing, insecurity, and the desire to appear unaffected. They might still want to seem fine without you, but deep down, your absence has affected their confidence. Public settings, especially ones where they might encounter mutual friends or shared social circles, can heighten these feelings, as they're now faced with the reality that you're not there. It's like walking into a room where there used to be a mirror. Suddenly, they can't see themselves as they used to, and that unfamiliar reflection leaves them feeling exposed. If you hear from mutual friends that they seem a bit off, or notice that they're not as comfortable in their usual social spaces, these are clear signs that no contact is affecting them more than they'd care to admit. This discomfort they're experiencing may not be intentional. It's often an unconscious reaction to a new reality they hadn't anticipated. Your choice to go silent has created a new dynamic, one that challenges their previous sense of stability. However, remember that this isn't an invitation to step back into their life. Their changed demeanor is their own journey to navigate, their own process of adjusting to life without you. This time apart is important for both of you. It's a chance for you to heal and grow independently, and for them to realize what your presence added to their life. What should you do if you notice or hear about this change in their behavior? The answer is simple. Continue to stand strong. Let their reaction be a reminder of the impact you had, but don't let it pull you back into old habits or break your silence. In fact, their discomfort shows that they're beginning to feel the weight of the space you've created, and that's a necessary part of the process. You're showing them that you're not someone who lingers in the background waiting for their attention. You're building a life where you're the center of your own happiness, and they're realizing what it feels like to no longer be at the center of yours. As challenging as it can be to remain detached, remember that this change in their demeanor is a reflection of your strength. It's a sign that they're having to confront a reality where you are no longer readily available, no longer there to boost their confidence or provide comfort. This is how people start to realize the value of someone they may have taken for granted. When faced with the void, they begin to recognize the difference between having you in their life and living without you. If you're not yet seeing this sign, don't worry. It may take time. Not everyone responds to absence in the same way or within the same timeline. Some people take longer to feel the effects of no contact, and that's okay. The purpose of no contact isn't to force a reaction. It's to give both of you the space to grow and reflect independently. Their journey is theirs to navigate, just as yours is yours. So if you're finding it hard to stay steady, remind yourself of the affirmation that brought you here. I stand strong. Each time you feel the temptation to check in or reach out, remember why you chose this path. Write it in the comments if you haven't already. I stand strong. This affirmation isn't just a statement. It's a commitment to yourself, a promise that no matter what changes or challenges arise, you're focused on building a life where you hold the power. Thank you for sticking with me through these signs. I hope this video gave you the clarity and strength to keep standing strong in your journey. Remember, no contact isn't just about them. It's about reclaiming your own power, growth, and happiness. If you found value in this content, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more insights on personal growth and relationships, and share it with anyone who might need a reminder to stay strong. And hey, if you're committed to this journey, drop a "keep it up" in the comments as a way to show your dedication, not just to this process, but to yourself. Keep going, stay strong, and I'll see you in the next video.